This video, I'm going to show you guys how to put an arrangement together in this cylinder vase, which is pretty standard. I mean, you can get them anywhere, Hobby Lobby, Home Goods, kind of any crafty store. I mean, you can get smaller ones at the dollar store even. So we'll start with this. Now, I have already prepped this vessel. If you are looking for any kind of direction on how to prep, you know, this little cylinder here, this big cylinder vase, any tips and tricks for that, I do have another video that talks about different ways you can prep and get ready to put flowers inside any kind of container. So I've already done that. What I have picked is I have some of these little baby moms. I have a couple of really beautiful white Alstromeria. We have some orange crush roses, which are beautiful, super vibrant. Some snaps, yellow stock, some really pale yellow stock, and two different types of eucalyptus. My husband picked out this arrangement, so this is one filled with colors that he gravitated towards. So to start, I'm gonna process. They are kind of processed, but we want to make sure that no leaves get into this container. If leaves are not in the container, if leaves are in the water in the container, that just allows for bacteria to build up and your arrangement will not last as long. So while I am doing this, I will kind of show you a couple different ways that I process the flowers as I go. So with stock, I remove all of the foliage underneath the flower, but I am going to start with my greenery, which is typically where I like to start depending on what the greenery is that I am using. Eucalyptus, it is gonna make your hands kind of sticky and dirty. So just, you're gonna get dirty in these, arranging these arrangements. So I just tightly grasp and tear down any of that nasty foliage down below. I have grid lines here. Like I said, if you want to know how I prepped this, there is videos on that. So I'm going to start by just placing my greens in the container. Now, greenery and foliage is going to help you determine the shape of your arrangement. For this, I want it to be asymmetrical. I'm going to go with kind of a taller arrangement, more vertical than I would in, say, you know, this small container. So this is going to be too much. So what I'm going to do is save. I'm going to snip down here and use this piece. I'm going to rip off some of that at the bottom, give it a fresh cut at 45 degrees. And I want this guy to kind of get tucked in over there. And I'm going to reuse the top portion that I already kind of ripped off or cut off. Again, 45-degree angle. That is going to allow these stems to suck up as much water as possible. And I'm going to pair that in kind of close by the other eucalyptus that I have. I almost forgot. I love, don't mind my reach, I totally forgot about my Lazy Susan. I love to work with a Lazy Susan. It really helps me see my arrangement at all angles. Unless you're doing something, you know, strictly on one side, it's gonna be next to a wall, but this one's probably gonna go on my table, so I want it to be pretty at all sides. Now, the next flower I'm going to use is my line flower, and I have a couple different varieties of line flower. The stock works great as a line flower, and so does the snaps. So what I'm gonna do first, I think, is the snaps. They have a really awesome, I love the shape. So similar to what I did for the greens, I'm just gonna tightly grasp on the stem and pull all these little leaves off. I'm gonna make sure it's kind of long since I do want this to be more vertical. and I'm gonna snip 45-degree angle. I want this to pop straight up top. Similar to this one, want it to be tall, 45-degree angle. And I like to have my flowers, I like to keep them in bunches. Naturally, when they grow outside in nature, you see them all together, right? There's never just, well, very unlikely that there is just one growing somewhere. So I like to kind of keep that same idea when I am arranging. And then what I like to do also is, so I have these two here. I like to balance out on the other side, not exactly mirroring. Again, I like asymmetrical, but I like to balance out what I did over there on the other side. Now that's a little too upright for me. I'm gonna cut it a little shorter so I can get the angle that I want. There we go, it's a little better. Perfect. Now, I love the stock. It is beautiful. It is so lush. Stock is underrated. I think it's awesome. Now, I want this to kind of play off of the snap since it is similar in color. I don't know why I had an inflection in my tone like that. Color. So I'm gonna have this be a little taller on this side. Again, kind of mirroring each other. If I had more stock, I would probably have them butted up against and be little buddies, but we don't, so that's what we're working with. Next, I'm gonna use my roses. So roses, I'm gonna pluck off all of the greenery. I know people like to leave the leaves on, I don't. And then I'm gonna move this off to the side a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. Roses all come with guard petals. That's what these are called. They help protect the flower when it's getting transported wherever. So I'm gonna pull those off. They just aren't very pretty. Any kind of damaged part of the flower. And then a way to open the flower up is to blow and get some air in between the petals. So I like to do that. You can kind of move them with your hands. I always tell people you can be a little more rough than you think you can with roses especially. So once I do that, another way I like to open them up is give them a good spin. So I flip it upside down and you can kind of hold it wherever, careful with the thorns, and give it a spin. This just helps the petals naturally open. Now look at that. So this is what we started with, which is beautiful in its own right, but look at the difference. Oh, they're awesome, these orange crush. Now, I have some line flower built up. You wanna make sure you create kind of a river effect of negative space. It just helps move the eye towards the arrangement. You don't wanna keep it all compact together. You wanna make sure that there is that undulation in the design. So I am gonna cut these a little shorter, but you'll see I will keep that blank space kind of flowing throughout, not directly in the center of the arrangement, but flowing definitely towards the center. So I'm pulling off the guard petals, give them a little, massage them a little, and let's give it a good spin. So let's see here. Again, keeping like colors together. And I kind of joke around with you're not putting flowers in concrete, right? So you can move them as you design, which you'll see I often do that. You can edit as you go. Things will work, things won't work. It'll move around, flowers won't stay where you want them to, so don't be afraid to really edit your design as you work. So remove this one. And of course, you will probably be a lot neater when you arrange at your own house. I am working out in my studio, and so I am tossing petals left and right, which I can do. There we go. Removing those leaves, opening up. And I don't necessarily want this one to be super open. I want this to kind of jut out a little bit. Oh, that's a little too much. If you do want to take the flower back out as you fill up, things might start to pull. Give it a little spin as you're yanking it out, and that will help. It kind of pull out without moving too much around. Okay, so that's what I have so far. Again, I'm going more vertical. It's not going to be symmetrical. Next, I am going to start with the Alstromeria. Now, I'm going to remove all the petals down below. I do like some of this green up top. Not all of it, but some of it. If anything looks damaged, you can remove it, or you really can remove it all. But I kind of like it. So I gave it a little snip. The Alstromeria, I'm going to help, it is going to help me cover up some of my mechanics. Let's move this back to the center, because you can still kind of see some of the tape, and I don't necessarily want to see the tape. So it's going to help cover some of that up. And actually, oh, one of them was sad. I changed my mind. I want this Alstromeria, since it is so pretty. And you guys, Alstromeria lasts forever. It is such a hardy flower. Okay, I wanted it to kind of help support over here. Okay, I do like that. Wish I had grabbed another one, but that's okay. Lastly, I have these beautiful mums. So I don't love the little buds at the bottom. Some people do, some people don't. I want to remove all of this greenery. Similar to what I did with the first Alstro, is I want this to cover up some of my mechanics. You can still kind of see some of it. I don't love that look. I mean, you don't want to see your mechanics as you're designing, so. Whoopsies. Again, it got stuck. I want to pull it out, but it's stuck. Give it a little twist, and it'll help pull it out. Again, if it's not doing what you want, keep trying. There we go. Okay, and I changed my mind again. I love that Alstromeria, but since I don't have any more, I do need it to cover up my mechanics on the other side. So, give it a good snip. You see how that just flows better than the mum to cover up that tape that I had there. Love that. What I'm gonna do instead is use the mum to support that vertical that Alstro did do for me. So I'm gonna cut it super tall, probably out of the frame. Pull out some of these buds that I don't want. I really want the ones that are open up top to shine. So, similar to how I had that Alstro. There we go. You guys, that was only, gosh, I think that was only 14 stems. So, it's beautiful. I love that with the cylinder vase, you can really see the stems at the base. So yeah, there you go. If you have any more, just expand. Thanks.